Okay, hi. First, I just want to thank everybody for all the great suggestions that you had regarding the story that you thought I should possibly tell. I do have a lot of really great stories, whether it was when I was an exchange student or in the military or where I grew up. It's really was hard to choose what story to tell. So, kind of what's been on my mind lately is a person who really deserves to be recognized. And it's kind of surprising that I chose this person because typically I talk about my grandfather, who was a pretty big force in my life. So, before I tell you about this person a little bit more, just a little bit of background, I grew up in Yakutat. It's a pretty small town, about 500 people. I graduated with 10 people in my class. My mom ran a restaurant, bar, and motel, and because I was the young one, I was the baby of the family, my mom, I guess, needed somewhere for me to go for summers, and so I would spend summers with my grandma and grandpa. And, my grandfather was always the one that I talked about just because he had this, kind of story that you can't miss. He was a World War II veteran. He had one arm. He built this boat with his wife, my grandma, from bottom up, and just really amazing man. He homesteaded. He lived on this sailboat with my grandma for 30 plus years, and they pulled a float house behind it that held chickens and goats and rabbits. So anyway, my mom needed a place for me to go for summers. And the first summer I remember going to was Baranof Hot Springs. And it was, I think, maybe population 4. And so we were anchored up to this place, and, we could go and take a hot springs, a bath. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. But I believe I spent my 6th birthday on that boat. And from there, they ended up moving and homesteading in a place called Teneke Springs, which was another small town, about 100 people. It was all on the water, so to get there, you either had to take a boat or to fly in. And so my cousins and I would spend summers there with my grandparents, and just to have a great time. We would work in the mornings until afternoon, and once our work was done, then we could play. And so my grandpa instilled kind of that work ethic in us. And, behind the scenes was my grandma Patty. And I don't know how she did it. She was is the most patient, kind woman I know. She, in this tiny, tiny place, either on the boat or when they eventually moved on to land, she always had food for whoever showed up. And so I asked her, Grandma, how did you deal with this? How did you, have enough food to feed these people? She didn't have a refrigerator. There was no electricity. Eventually, my grandpa had set up a Pelton wheel so that they did have electricity, which was pretty amazing. But, she just always rose to the occasion, whatever it was. So, we had a lot of memorable summers in this place. And, my cousin Tammy and I would often find trouble, just her and I. But it was a lot of good memories that I'll never forget. And so one summer, I was there. I don't think we had too many visitors that year, but I decided that I wanted to go to school there. And it was the school there, I think, had maybe a total of 10 people. I believe I was in 3rd grade. And I don't know how I talked my mom or my grandparents into it, but they agreed to let me stay there. And so I lived on the boat, and my grandma would get up in the mornings with me and make me breakfast, and set a little lunch out for me. And she always had like the best breads, and she just supported anything that my grandpa came up with, or me and my cousins came up with. Just a really cool person. And so if you could see or imagine a woman not very tall. I don't know exactly how. She's just a tiny little thing, and she would be in this skiff, going full bore with her hair blowing behind her. And, she would take me to school in that skiff every morning, and she didn't have to. So, um, I don't have a whole lot of time left, but I just wanted to share that little piece of story with you. And, again, thank you everybody for your suggestions. And I hope that you could, just if you see my grandma, many of you know her, just tell her what an amazing lady she is. And I hope she knows how much that I love her and appreciate her. So thank you guys. Have a great day.